What's up, guys? I'm back. Yeah, I'm doing double videos. You probably thought that TGR was the only guy who could do that sort of thing, but hey, I don't know. We'll see. I'm new to this content game, I'm barely started, right? So today I'm responding to one of your DMs, which I loved. It's a great freaking question. If I had my phone with me, I would definitely shout out this person because this is a good question. Someone DM'd the Palaview Instagram or commented on YouTube. I don't actually remember. But he said, hey, what is DeFi Llama? How do I use it? And what the heck does total value locked mean? This is a really good question. So let's dive in. Because total value locked is something that seems very important. And in some instances it is, but it kind of is hard to tell when, where is it relevant, right? So if we look right here really quick, we can see that the TVL for the whole space of DeFi, every blockchain, every protocol had a max value of a peaked value, of 189-ish billion. And today it sits at around 88. So let's look at a project like Sushi Swap. So let's see what Sushi Swap looks like and their TVL. So TVL on Sushi Swap is 476 million. Let's see how that's broken down. You can see that that's what's essentially fueled per chain. So this is how, because Sushi Swap, if you don't already know, is a multi-chain decentralized exchange, which means that you can trade assets on the Ethereum blockchain. But if you have assets that are on Aptos, I don't know who does, or Polygon, you can trade assets there, right? And so you can also see that this is what this essentially is showing is like the total liquidity, right? So when I was making that video earlier today about the decentralized exchanges, right? And I was showing and walking you guys through how people add liquidity to these things, right? So this is basically showing like the total amount of liquidity that people have uploaded actually to these platforms, which are software, right? So it is amazing to see how high their TVL got back in November 10th, 2021. 8.1 billion, right? And so they're kind of making a slow recovery, but it's not so great. So let's go to another. Let's take a look at another one. Let's see what Maker's up to. So Maker, see, look at this. 9 billion and some nice, really healthy they're holding on to a lot of that TVL post the bull run, right? Which is actually a really nice signal for this DAO, right? So MakerDAO, right, has 6.8, and then I think they're saying that the combined between all three of these, between these two, is yeah, that's what's happening here. So that's very interesting. Okay. So let's look at another one. Let's look at another platform that's even crazier. Like this completely failed project. Okay, here we go. Look at this. Platypus Finance. This is a very interesting project to me because I thought this was actually going to have a nice recovery, and it totally isn't, as you can tell, because it's dealt with these hacks. I like how they show these events here. But you can see that when they released, right? Their platform started in late November 2021, and in just a few months, they were able to get to a billion in TVL, like well over a billion in total value locked. And I believe that this platform actually broke the record for fastest to a billion in total value locked. And the reason is because it was Avalanche native and their timing was perfect. And they were providing a really nice service, which is a stable coin swap. So they provided liquidity for stable coins, right? So like if I'm in Tether or Bridge Tether USDC or Bridged USDC, I was able to get in and out of those different stable coins with very low fees. So that was what they were providing. But as you can see, they now have less than $500,000 worth of capital locked on their platform. Now this is highly, highly unusual. So what do you really learn from something like this? That at the end of the day, TVL is a decent indicator for the success of a project, right? For the engagement of the community, or even like the economic value of the community, right? Because there are some platforms that have very few participants, but would have a very high TVL. So one of those would be Internet Computer, right? So let's see if they're even on here. Doesn't look like it. Internet. No. Okay. That's interesting. Let's go back to this and see all the chains. Nope. Okay. Well, fuck that. The other thing I want to talk about is treasuries, because treasuries are actually a lot more interesting to me than total value locked. Okay. A treasury, especially in the context of a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, which I'm realizing we need to do a video on, so maybe that'll be tomorrow's video, is, obviously an organization that is run by and governed by, I should say, token holders and stakers, right? And so I am very interested in treasuries because a treasury, once the governance of that protocol or DAO is unlocked, can actually be utilized even in the real world. And so that's why I'm using MakerDAO as an example, because they're actually buying things like US treasuries, right? The decentralized autonomous organization is making large purchases in real world assets that generate yield and make money and provide and actually security for the treasury of MakerDAO. MakerDAO is interesting too because it actually supports DAI, DAI, the stablecoin that's been around forever. And it's actually one of the most reliable stablecoins out there. So let's look at these protocol treasuries in terms of stablecoin value, because a lot of these treasuries, right? If we go to back to the total treasury, you can see that their treasuries mostly consist of their own tokens. So you can see like their own tokens, total excluding their own tokens, right? So Arbitrum, right? It looks like they've just got this crazy treasury of $6.597 billion worth, right? But only 36.1 million of anything that isn't their own token. So this is a great example of a TVL or treasury where the having a big TVL or treasury is actually not a signal of anything. Okay, that's it, because it it is a completely meaningless number for them, because they're just saying like, hey, we own a bunch of our own tokens that have gotten up to this value because when we did our initial ICO, we had this token allocation that allowed us to own this much of it, right? So the same thing is actually kind of true for Uniswap. 4.538 billion of treasury and only $1,000 of tokens that exclude their own treasury, right? So that's why I find stablecoin treasuries to be a lot more interesting. So, because this is where people are actually willing to put their US dollars to get yield there, which is kind of what the adults do, right? If you see a and this is not like super reliable, but it is, I believe it does correlate better, right? So this India thing, this is like a DAO dedicated to like doing charitable work in India, and I don't know how well they've successfully been able to mobilize these stable coins, because I think that they're having a hard time with their governance. And Olympus DAO is a very famous example of a huge, huge treasury, 182.15 million, right, of stable coins that the community, that the DAO of Olympus DAO, right, can actually govern and put into different things right? Put it into different investments, other tokens, potentially other stocks or commodities or US treasuries, like I was saying that MakerDAO is currently doing, right? But again, they're kind of locked up and not able to do much because what? Governance has not been solved. Governance on chain is still in an experimental time, right? So like we're still just everyone's experimenting and there's no kind of universal system of governance in DeFi yet. That's kind of the right way to think about it. So again, their treasury had this moment of being in the not in the billions, but almost. And so this is an interesting project. I don't necessarily would recommend it, but if you do look, let's go to CoinGecko quick. If we look at their token price action, right, on Olympus now. This is kind of a fun unstructured video, huh? It has this really interesting characteristic which you will not see in a lot of platforms, right? So obviously, I mean, look at this price action, right? And look how scary this looks. But when you look deeper, right? When we look deeper into this thing, we start to see. Why is this not working? Wow, that did not work. That was not my fault, guys. That usually works. You can see that it's actually really starting to gain some decent decent momentum here. People are really trying to feel this thing out. They're trying to because this thing has value, right? This is a project with a market cap of half a billion, a treasury of 100 with a treasury of a stablecoin treasury of what we were just showing before, and a market cap of this, right? So in my opinion, the market cap for this type of project can't really go beneath the stablecoin treasury, right? And especially with this project, I mean, I believe that there are like things put in place for the project to be able to like buy back tokens, right? Or burn their tokens with the treasury. I think that that's part of the governance in place. But so yeah, that's a little bit of a primer on TVL treasuries and how to use DeFi Llama to understand where certain projects are seeing growth, right? And I would really encourage you guys to track it in terms of new projects, right? Or if you're like comparing like, hey, I'm interested in Sushi Swap or Uniswap or Trader Joe, right? And I want to see like and track their price action. I'm thinking about investing in one of these things. Consider really just tracking the TVLs as a metric that paints like that contributes to the larger picture of all these things, right? It's an indicator, but it's not, but it correlates decently, right? I would say it correlates more or less effectively than even like a Twitter following. Tracking Twitter followings is probably more effective than a TVL. So, and obviously and the Twitter following is a is a more of an alpha indicator versus a lagging indicator, right? So, meaning if you're starting to notice a Twitter following go up, the TVL increase in value will follow that, right? It's not like the TVL will lead the Twitter following. The Twitter following will always lead the TVL. All right, guys. So hope that was good. That was a little bit more of an unstructured video than typical, but hey, you know how it goes. So great question. Shout out to whoever DM'd us about this, and we will keep these going.